Hello guys, Furfuse Loco here, and well, you guys asked for it, so here's the video of all my scrap customs. So, and no, bear in mind, most of my scrap agents are no longer with me. Well, I mean, because I mainly sent them to other users. So, yeah, first off of the scrap customs is the Omega Blocks Thomas. Now, I bought this for its face for a custom. Yeah, I kind of regret. I personally feel I should have just did the front part of the Mega Blocks Thomas and just sold the rest for spare parts. But yeah. Next up of what the scrap customs is a wind-up Duncan. Yeah, remember that Duncan I bought from the train show? Well, I mainly bought it for its face. And you kind of can see that I broke the cab roof off mainly because I wanted the little weight that was inside of it. Oh, yeah. Next is like a little wind-up truck. Yeah, the face I actually put onto a tar tanker. Yeah, you may remember one of my Charles truck customs, like that tar tanker I have. I pretty much took the face from this truck and put it on it. Yep, the chassis of it was thrown out. As for this Duncan, well, its chassis, I'm saving it as a spare to give to someone else in the wind-up collecting community. So, yeah, next are like the take and play / adventures. So, next is part of a Gina. Yeah, I needed Gina's face for a custom. I don't know what happened to the smoke box and chassis, but this is pretty much the only thing left of Gina. Next is the Adventures Rosie. The face was removed. I tried to make it into a puffer from Tugs, but it didn't work out in the end, so it's now just a scrap engine. Next, an old take-along Percy. Yeah, I pretty much took the magnets off of it. Oh yeah, and also I've also removed the face from it. And, well, next up are, like, these two Tomica truck frames. The face is from remember in the train show I bought that Tomica Thomas? Or is it, like, Tomica Thomas? Yeah, I don't know what to do with the truck bodies. Like, I might just use them not sure what to use them for. But the chassis I didn't really need. So I decided just to make them into little, like, old rusted bits of scrap. Next are the circus cars. Yeah, one of them I cut the top part of it off for a custom. Oh yeah, I took the chassis from them for those vans I made. Which I stuck some Hornby van bodies on. So these are basically these were basically what I did, the top parts. Yeah, next is part of a Fergus wheel. Basically I was trying to make a Theo and pretty much the model didn't work out that well. So this is basically just the only thing that's remained. Yeah, I pretty much threw the remains of it out, and this I just turned into an old scrap wheel. Next is, like, part of the recycling car. Yeah, I just found it like, I took the bins off of it a while back, and I didn't know what to do with the bottom bit. I found it a while back, and I just turned it into, like, part of, like, an old dumper. It could look like some old dumper car, like part of it well, one of those like tipping wagons. And next is this unknown brand thing. So I turned it. I pretty much needed the chassis for a custom, and I didn't want to throw out the top part, so I just turned it into a little scrap thing of scrap, little like scrap wagon. Yeah. Next is like this part of this engine here, which I did try turning the Lexi, but it didn't really work out. So it's now just part of the scrap weight. Next is just an old Brio engine. I originally painted it in a brown, but I decided just to make it look more like a scrap engine instead. But next is this engine. Yeah, I had it on my table and on my thing for a while, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I basically did what I did with the. I decided to turn it into a scrap engine. Yeah. Next of these scrap items are my minis. Yeah, these were minis whose chassis were donated for projects. Well, for customs, so. There are 2 Gator bodies, 2 Salty bodies, 1 Flynn, 2 Diesel 10s, 1 Bill, these could be like either like Dodge, Spider, Airy, or Burt. Well, these bodies could have been like for like Burt, Paxton, or Diesel. Two Charlies. 2 Percys, a Birdie, a Stanley, 2 Spencers, a Luke, and a Scruff. Yep, now on to like the Erdl items. And like some of the non-Thomas toy related items. Oh yeah. I know Earls are rare, but most of these Earls were in bad conditions, so I was pretty much just putting them out of their misery and finding a new use for them. Yeah, I'm just gonna first start with like the non-Thomas items. Like this is some weird Christmas train. Yeah, I hollowed out the back. Yeah, I pretty much left one of the axles on it. Yeah. Next is like some pullback engine. Yeah, it's red. I didn't have any use for it, so I decided just to make it into a scrap engine. So, yeah, next is some weird, like, Sterling single thing I got a while back from a Doubt Thomas event, which it does look like, which is Emily's real-life basis. Yeah, I sort of screwed it up. So I pretty much just turned it into some sort of old scrap Sterling single, which for those that don't know is Emily's Emily's prototype's name. Yeah, next are a bunch of chassis Yeah, 3 of these are from Annie/Claremont, and 2 of them are from mail cars. One is from some Erdl tanker. One is part of an old Henrietta. Some Erdl wagon. And part of an old Scruffy. Next is an old Thomas. Yep, the front coupling broke on it, so I pretty much decided to turn it into a scrap engine. Next is a Bluebell, which the model I tried making into some E2, but whoops, I failed on it, and I pretty much just turned it into a scrap engine. Next is Duck. Well, Duck had some damage to his buffers. Yeah, Next is some like old Gold Rail Annie with the Erdl roof on it. Yeah, I pretty much combined the 2 bits to look like some old abandoned coach. So, yeah. Next is a Smudger. Yep, he was pretty much... His chassis broke, and I pretty much decided to turn him into a scrap engine. Oh. Yep. Next is like an old, like, Dear Tugboat George. Well, his maul broke. I decided to, like, turn him into some old scrap tugboat. Yep. Next is part of some Rebecca. Like, Rebecca and George right there were from Theater Tugboat, not Thomas. Yeah, I'm using Rebecca's hull for a tugboat model, and I had this buy left over, so I decided to turn it into some old scrap vessel. Yeah, next is an Erdl lorry. 3. Yeah, I took the wheels off a while back. And now it's out of it, and I pretty much modified it to put in HO wheels, but it didn't work out, so I pretty much turned it into some old scrap lorry. Yeah, next is a Trevor. Yep. He lost his flywheel, so I pretty much decided to turn him into a scrap engine. Next is an Edward. His tender pretty much fell apart. Yeah, his tender pretty much just fell apart. Like, the chassis on the back of his tender pretty much just collapsed on itself, so I pretty much had to sort of, in a way, amputate the old tender. And, yeah, you could kind of see I removed one of the wheels. And the face. Yeah. Next is an old Erdl Percy. I just had this laying around, so I started turning it into some sort of scrap engine. Next is a Thumper. Yeah, I tried weathering him up, but it didn't work out that well, so I started turning his remains into some old scrap driller. Next is, I tried basing this scrap engine on the engine from Bluebells of England. Yeah, I pretty much gave him, it's an old Erdl James. I gave him memory trace because James's face didn't look that good. Also, like, the James head was in not the best shape. So, he pretty much looks like that one scrap engine from Bluebells of England. Next is like an old, like, some European scrap model I did, like something out of Europe, is Axle's basis. Yeah, I tried making Axle, but it failed, so I pretty much just turning it into I tried making an HO scale Axle, but I pretty much just failed on it, so I pretty much decided to turn it into a scrap engine. Oh yeah. Next are like the items I have that are the Trackmaster scrap customs. I'm done. So I'm just gonna try getting them over. Oh, apparently I had two other take-along scrap customs, which are just two trucks. Yeah, I didn't realize I put them with the take-alongs by accident. Well, two take-along. What I would say was that I didn't know I put them with the track measures by accident. So, yeah. So now on to the Trackmaster scrap engines. First is an old mic tender from some failed project. Yeah, I pretty much just painted it to look like one of the scrap tenders from Tenders for Henry. Oh yeah, next is a Spencer tender with... It has Lexi's tender wheels, because I pretty much gave Edward, the Lexi, the Spencer tender wheels. So I pretty much just swapped them, and it makes it, the tender, it does make it a bit hard to move, but since these scrap model engines are pretty much static, there's really no need for them to move. Next are like a couple Goring tenders, one from a failed product which I tried making one of the Arsdale engines. I pretty much failed on that. And another Goring tender which I just had laying around, so I thought of just turning it into a scrap tender. Next is a Merlin tender. Yeah, I have the chassis still, which I'm kind of just keeping as a spare in case anyone needs a spare Trackmaster tender with red wheels. Oh yeah. You can still see some of the sparkle though on it. And this silver does add to like a scrap effect, so. Yeah, next are 4 of these Trackmaster houses, like the mid-release ones. Yeah. This one, which pretty much its body, the side bit here, I was getting some clay off it and I broke the side tank a little, which does add to the scrap appeal. These next two I pretty much cut the cabs off because I needed them for products, but since I had not to do it, then I pretty much decided to add them to it. And the scrap model, pretty much you could just have them all like this, like dismembered. Oh. Yeah. That. Same thing with this Thomas. And just one that's just the shell of Thomas and has no run board, which is from that gold Thomas from my first customs. No, not custom figure. First collection thing where I showed that shrine. Yeah, I can say like there was a bit of the gold that's still on it. So there's that. Next is just something that was from some project, which pretty much these little bits that were cut off, which something I did try to do with, I was trying to make like some Thomas Finance and Phrase, like I would like a weather Thomas, kind of like the weather animatronics from Finance Phrase 2. Pretty much just like there was wires coming out of the side bits here and circuit boards glued to the sides. Yeah, I didn't. It was back when I was a FNAF fan, which I still kind of am one, but in all honesty, FNAF is starting to lose its charm. Well, actually, to be honest, FNAF is losing its charm. In a way. Which is weird coming from me, because I used to love the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Well, I still do like it. But even it is kind of losing its charm, I have to admit. Yeah, next is like some weather Thomas, which is from another failed project. Oh, another Thomas from redesigned Thomas, which again like from some failed project. Next are a couple of remains of my older Donald and Douglas. Yep. On the bits, I don't have the parts of them. Like, pretty much, I put the faces on my one Donald Douglas customs. Those HL models I did of them, so. Yeah, these are basically the remains. And they pretty much bit the dust. That's why I turned them into scrap engines. Yeah, next is a Henry. Yeah, you can kind of see, like, know that, again, like, he was from some failed project. Yep, Scruff. Pretty much, again, like, is also a failed project. So, yeah, this is the scrap pile-up so far. So, yeah. Next, a Thomas, which it's Smokebox. I am using the Smokebox from it for a project, and the shell I pretty much just had laying just a spare, so I decided to turn it into a scrap engine. Redesigned Percy, which was also a failed project. A redesigned Harvey. Yeah, I pretty much cut this little crane bit off. Yeah, he's basically also a failed project. A Neville Smokebox, which I pretty much sent the chassis and tender from my old Neville to Steven Garcia 118. Part of it, part of the boiler is being used for my Molly custom, and the rest I'm saving, like, in case I have to make it custom using parts of it, so, yeah. Part of a Spencer, which, I should probably get this bit, which is from a Gordon. I pretty much tried making an LNER P2 Macaro with, like, a streamlined front, but it didn't really work out. So, yeah, next is part of an old Freddy. Yeah, I tried to make a color fill engine, but I pretty much failed on the project. And you could kind of say it's like Godred. Like, pretty much what he would look like while he was being dismembered for parts. Oh yeah. A Renee's cab, which I pretty much removed it because I needed the front body for a project. Or something, so. Yep. And an old Tommy Percy body sheet, which I just had laying around, so pretty much just came a scrap engine. Next are like the HO scale scrap customs I have done. Like of the American stock. So first of it is an old tender. It was part of like my Young Bow project. I don't know what happened to the front part of it. Because I did made the front into a scrap engine, but I don't know where it went. Yeah, I pretty much turned it into a scrap tender. Old Dandy Dancer, which from my leftover from my Dart project, which it basically failed. So it's pretty much now a scrap item. An old diesel shunter, which is also from a failed project. Yeah, the cab roof broke off. Yeah. An old tanker, which pretty much this tanker's bogies, like they were broken. So I'd hold them on with some bands. And I pretty much decided just to put this tanker out of its misery and turn it into an old scrap tanker. Some old chassis I was going to use for a project but never got around to, so it's pretty much now just part of the scrap fleet. An old tank engine. American tank engine. An engine which was part of my Porter project, but it pretty much failed. Like, I could not get them all to work anymore. So I pretty much turned it into a scrap engine. Old diesel shunter. Which I just had laying around, so I turned it into a scrap custom. And then part of this engine. Yeah, it's like a daylight, but it's one of the older versions. Like, I was going to use this for my Vinny custom, but I never really got around to making him. So he pretty much I turned it into an old scrap loco, along with a tender. So yeah, now onto like the OO scale items that I have. So first off is a Terrence. I'm using the chassis bit for a custom. So yeah, it kind of does look like an old tractor. Like something I'd probably be seen in a scrapyard. So yep. An old Bachman Birdie. Part of a J72. Part of a Hornby Percy. A full Hornby Percy. But with this Hornby Percy, like most of the scrap customs I did, I pretty much had some writing all over it, like saying, keep off, don't take parts, and scrap all over it. To make them look more realistic. Something I did with part of a Gordon firebox and a Henry cab. Here's the other side. Hornby bill / bend, boiler part, and the cap part. A chassis underframe. An old truck. A Bachman Gordon. A Caledonian single-wheeler tender shell. An old coach body. I pretty much broke the roof on it by accident, so I pretty much just turned it into like some old like coach body. That roof was given to another coach. Yeah. Class 06. Yeah, I don't know what happened to the chassis. I pretty much decided to turn this into some scrap diesel. A whole J72. Yep, the buffer beams were donated to a custom. Well, donate for any whenever I add the scratch build something. So, yep. Henry tender. The Celestri coach underframe. That one brake coach I had, but I pretty much decided went with the coach by like pretty much since my composite one I got didn't have any couplings on the bogie, so I pretty much turned the bogie bits in the cylinder frame into scrap. And the coach body I'm turning into like some old hut, like an old workman's hut. Yep, that's pretty much what I'm doing with it, with the old bodies. This is just the little underframe. I mean, part of some old Hornby hopper. A Bachman Thomas. Bachman V3, which this was part of my old Eric custom, but since I won't be using Eric in my series, and I'm pretty much sending his chassis to Sam Strange for him to use for like servicing other locos. Like pretty much I'm donating some bits for him to use as spare parts. A Bachman Henry. A couple more wagon frames. This one has wheels on it. Part of an old Hornby crane. A Bachman Percy running board. A Bachman Percy boiler. Part of a Bachman Thomas with his cab removed. A Bachman Donald / Douglas tender. Two Bachman James tenders. An old Bachman Emily. tender, which you may remember in my first customs video that it came damaged, so I pretty much turned it into a scrap engine. Originally, the cab was intact along with bits of the running board, but I decided to break off bits of the cab and running board and make it look like it was being cut up. Also, I took off one of the buffers for another scrap custom. Oh, yeah. Old Bachman doll that was from a failed project. Well, a Bachman doll / Douglas, which was from a failed project. The tender to that engine that I turned into a scrap engine, the tender that belonged to this engine here, originally I wanted to use this tender for a custom, but I decided not to. So, yeah, Bachman Percy. Another part of the Hornby Percy, the Hornby Crane Wagon's chassis, Bachman Brake Fan chassis, an old Bachman Well Wagon. Yeah, I pretty much donated its bogies to for a custom. And so with the old bogies, like, they wouldn't work, so I just glued them on to make it look like an old well wagon that's in a scrapyard. Bachman Henry cab. A Bachman Thomas. Well, I probably should have said another Bachman Thomas. A Bachman Thomas running board. Part of a J72. A GWR 101 tank engine. Yeah, I pretty much broke some bits of it off to make it look like it was being cut up. Oh, it was just my Apple Watch. In case you're wondering what that noise was. A Bachman Burt, which I did try using using its body to make Frankie, but it was a bit too wide to be used for my Frankie custom, so I turned it into an old scrap class of weight diesel hunter. A Hornby Gordon boiler. Three Stanier tenders. Here's the back, sides, Bachman Gordon. I pretty much removed one of the cab steps and broke a bit of the window off, the little like tender door bit off. Two Hornby Gordon tenders. Yeah, I'm donating their filler, little like filler caps to my Donald / Douglas customs. Oh. Yep. Two Hornby Thomases. Hornby Gordon chassis. Bachman Edward Tender, an old salty chassis with Bachman Thomas wheels glued onto it, and last but not least, the Black 5 from the tutorial I did on how to make a scrap engine. So, yeah. So, those are all my scrap customs. Oh. Yep, this is Furphy's Loco, signing off.